Are you a movie buff? Do you love dissecting and analyzing your favorite films? Look no further than the Projection Booth podcast. Join host Mike White and a bevy of guest experts as they explore the history, themes, and legacy of cult classics, obscure gems, and mainstream hits. Join us every week for a unique and engaging look at your favorite movies. So sit back, grab some popcorn, and tune in to the Projection Booth podcast, available on all major podcast platforms.
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, creeps. It's me, John Kassir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper, and you're listening to Chronicles from the Crypt.
I'm Casualty Chris.
And this is Father Malone.
And we are the hosts of Chronicles from the Crypt, a twice-a-month look at the horror anthology series Tales from the Crypt that originally aired in the late 80s to early 90s.
Now, on each of our podcasts, we tend to do 2 episodes of the television series, but today is different. Today is a bonus episode. We're between seasons 4 and 5. So we're going to take a look at some Tales ephemera, some extracurricular Tales material. In this case, it's a doozy. It's their first theatrical feature under the Tales from the Crypt banner. We're talking Demon Knight.
Boy, aren't we?
We sure are.
Universal Pictures is proud to present the motion picture directing debut of one of America's most talented and respected artists.
Cut! Cut! Oh, hello, kiddies. So glad you could join me. Your pal, the Crypt Keeper, has gone Hollywood in a big way. I'm directing my first feature film. Care for a little shriek preview? For my big scream premiere, I wanted lots of suspense. Uh-oh. Special effects. Sex. Violence. The kind of thing you could really sink your teeth into. Frights. Camera. Action. It's about a chase through the ages. A race against time. The war between good and evil.
Come on out, everybody! It's time to play!
And the final battle between man...
I'm sorry.
...and demon.
I'm not gonna hurt you. I lied.
It stars Billy Zane from Dead Calm, William Sadler from Die Hard 2, and Jada Pinkett from Menace to Society. Ooh, I love those titles. And you'll love Demon Knight.
The demons are here!
And ladies, if you think Demon Knight is too gross and yucky...
Whoa!
Thank you.
So, the film was released January 13th, 1995. It is directed by Ernest Dickerson, written by Mark Bishop, Ethan Reif, and Cyrus Voris. It stars a whole bunch of people. Billy Zane, William Sadler, Jada Pinkett, CCH Pounder, Thomas Hayden Church. Look, there's a lot of folks in this movie. Dick Miller's
Charles
there.
Fleischer.
Charles
John
Fleischer's
Schuck.
there. It is full. It is replete with people. However, I can tell you with absolute certainty, I went into watching this film last night, remembering it fondly. I own the soundtrack on vinyl. I do not remember disliking this movie the last couple times I have watched it. And for some reason, a reason I cannot seem to figure out, I just didn't have that much fun with it last night.
Oh, we're going to figure it out. That's what we're doing.
I hope so.
Now, as I tend to do with the episodes, let's talk about the derivation of this particular project. Shockingly, this is not based on a Tales from the Crypt comic book. This is an original screenplay. They tended to, when they made these movies, just sort of go off the rails and whatever they thought was Tales from the Crypt enough got the go-ahead. Demon Knight as a script had existed since 1987, so it's about eight years old by the time they got it made. And I think initially it was supposed to be Tom Holland's follow-up to Child's Play.
Yep, that's right.
And he instead decided to go do Fatal Beauty instead, which was not a good move. I think he actually would have enlivened the film a little bit more. But so the script kept kicking around. It went from studio to studio, and then somehow ended up on Joel Silver's desk, and he was like, "This is enough. Let's do this one."
I mean, I will say it does feel like a Tales from the Crypt episode.
It certainly could be. It's got all the elements. Were there no Tales from the Crypt or Vault of Horror or Shock Suspense stories or Haunt of Fear stories that somebody could have taken a look at and said, you know what, I think we can spin it out?
Well, here's the thing.
It feels a little lazy on their part.
I mean, I would agree, but at the same time, we've seen how some of the stories are adapted into 20 minutes, and it's not great. So my issue with this film has nothing to do with the story being an original story. I mean, look, okay. I feel like if it's an hour-and-a-half movie, which it is, they were going to have a hard time filling it with a story from the comic that they essentially didn't just completely, change anyways. That is the least of this film's problems, is that it's an original script.
Oh, yeah. Look, ultimately, I'm not complaining about that.
But because it's an original script, it feels like they could have done something else. They're not beholden, right?
No, you know what? Okay, so around this time, I was in Hollywood at the time and kind of a little bit hooked into the people who were making the series. And they, not the studio, but the people at Tales from the Crypt had effectively put out the call. They were like, we're looking to do features. Submit your script that is in the Tales from the Crypt vein for our perusal. And two scripts that ended up getting made anyway were high on the list. One was Death Becomes Her, which Robert Zemeckis ended up making separately and has nothing to do with Tales from the Crypt as far as its release. The other
Except
one
for the
was
fact that it feels like a Tales from the Crypt episode as well.
It is it absolutely. It should have been under the Tales from the Crypt banner. Like it would have elevated the brand, if you will. The other one that is pretty notable was Peter Jackson's The Frighteners. That was written specifically to be submitted as a Tales from the Crypt episode, or a Tales from the Crypt feature. And in both those cases, it was Robert Zemeckis who said, "Yeah, these are a little too good. I'm gonna pull them off to the side." I'm not saying the end product was great. I'm just saying that was his thought process.
But what was this? But this was just kicking around as well?
What, the Demon Knight?
Yeah.
Yeah, Demon Knight is part of the Robert Zemeckis' other ethos, the problem that we talked about season 4, the good enough theory of filmmaking. This is close. This is good. This is good enough, right? It's got all the elements. Just make this and get it on out there.
Yeah, it's good enough, and that's the problem when you've got as many great folks in this film as you do. I mean, Jesus, William Sadler alone, Thomas Hayden Church. I mean, I think Billy Zane's the best part of this entire movie. I think he's clearly having the most fun of anyone in the film. And
Billy Zane's one of these guys that I have an aversion to him for whatever reason.
Just
there's just something about that. Yeah, there's just something about that guy that bugs me. Gina Gershon is similar in that vein. There's something about them that just, to me, is off-putting. However, in this part, he's really, really good. He's spectacular, as a matter of fact. What's weird is there was actually a movie, an adaptation of a Jim Thompson novel called This World and the Fireworks, which starred Billy Zane and Gina Gershon. So it's like the perfect storm of creeping me out. But here, he's so good.
He's great in this movie. He's the best part of this movie.
He is. We want to dive into plot a little bit here?
Yeah, so the plot is convoluted. To say the least. I mean, it is, it's pretty straightforward. Demons are chasing after William Sadler's character, who has a key that, if gotten into the hands of the demons, played by Billy Zane and other creatures, maquettes, or not maquettes, but prosthetics, people in full body prosthetics, it will allow the demons to come to our world?
Yeah, it's never really defined why they want this key so badly. It is in the script, which I read last night, but it did not make it to the screen for some reason. The script says pretty explicitly that the key is actually a key to the gates of heaven. And if the demons possess it, then they can run riot not only over our world, but the afterlife as well, and all will be darkness. Which is pretty good.
It would have been better if they had explained that in the actual film as opposed to just writing it in the script.
Yeah, I think that's probably a tidbit of information that could have been made available to us, and then we would have known the stakes. The stakes, as far as we get in the movie, are people trapped in a roadhouse hotel just trying to survive the night. It's the oldest horror story in the world.
And yet somehow it came out, 2 years before From Dusk Till Dawn?
I think it's just a year, but yeah, it is. Rewatching it, I certainly got the From Dusk Till Dawn vibe.
I would say From Dusk Till Dawn is a better movie.
I would,
but
too,
I
honestly.
do think that this movie suffers from the exact same thing that From Dusk Till Dawn suffers from, which is a drag during the middle of the movie. Because all of a sudden, everything stops and the demons are effectively kept outside, kind of like in From Dusk Till Dawn when the vampires are effectively kept outside, and you've kind of got this 10 to 20 minute just drag.
Yeah, of sort of characters kind of figuring out who they are, and it's just not even characters figuring out who they are. That would have been a little more interesting. Instead, what you have in this case is just the people bickering about what the next move should be.
Well, they're not all on the same page. Thomas Hayden Church's character is a dickhead, don't you know?
Yeah, exactly. And look, there's something to be said for that conversation, that sort of debate among the characters about what we should do to solve the problem, whether to save their own skins or do the noble thing. But it doesn't. This movie's really not interested in that. From Dusk Till Dawn also wasn't interested in that. Yeah, I don't know, man. I saw this movie when it came out, and I did not like it at the time, but I really wanted to. We got, you mentioned some of the talent behind the scenes. Ernest Dickerson, the director of this film, I think he'd only directed a couple of movies beforehand, but prior to that was Spike Lee's cinematographer. And he's gone on to do amazing work on television. He's been a director for 25 years now, primarily in television. He did not a lion's share, but a goodly portion of Dexter back in the day. He's still working today. I think he's got a great eye. I think the movie looks great, honestly, because it's set bound. They filmed this whole thing on a set, but it's good to have a cinematographer behind the camera there because it's not going to look like a set, which is a problem with a lot of the episodes of Tales from the Crypt, at least from my perspective. So the movie looks great. The cast is really good, with a couple of exceptions. Thomas Hayden Church.
Well, and the other thing about this movie not looking like a set, like you mentioned, and it doesn't look like a set, thankfully, because like you said, a lot of these episodes of the show end up looking that way. I think for me, at the end of the day, when I was all said and done watching this movie, I think the thing that stood out to me the most is how good this film looks.
Yeah, it's a good-looking movie.
Yeah, it doesn't feel cheap, and some of the episodes of the show feel cheap.
It's a crazy kind of conundrum when you think about it, because the whole idea about working on a set is you get to control everything.
Right.
And in the case of like this film, like clearly the whole movie was going to take place at night. If you go film it on location, you can kind of cheat it. But if it's in a studio environment, you can shoot for night all day long and control that. And it's kind of crazy when you have filmmakers who have the opportunity to shoot on a set, build it from the ground up, do it exactly what you want it to be, and then don't bother to go just that extra step of lighting it so it becomes atmospheric. I think most people tend to overlight movies because they want fast turnarounds. They want to be able to shoot the scene in one direction and then without stopping turn the camera and shoot it in another. Because that's the holdup when you're making a film. It's relighting a scene. So in this case, Ernest Dickerson was not having that, clearly, because the movie looks gorgeous. It's probably, I don't know that it's the best thing in the movie. I think his direction is solid, but it's certainly the thing that I, even when I saw it the first time, came away with and continue to think about when I think about the movie. Like that, I thought Ernest Dickerson did a really good job.
No, you're right. The best thing in the movie is the soundtrack.
Absolutely.
I mean, the soundtrack is really good. I mean, you have
nice shot.
Pantera, Ministry, Sepultura, the Melvins, Megadeth. I mean, there's a reason I own the soundtrack on vinyl. I mean, it's a good soundtrack. I mean, Cemetery Gates alone is worth the price of admission for the soundtrack. It's just
Pantera, yo.
It's just too bad that so little of all the good things carry over into the actual film.
It's kind of shocking because there are some things that I admire about this film. To make a horror movie, like what is effectively a B-grade, maybe C-grade horror film in 1995, and have the sort of MacGuffin of the piece be a vessel holding the blood of Christ, and we get flashbacks to the crucifixion. And that's pretty daring, honestly.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it goes in directions you would not expect it to go. It's a little bit more self-serious than pretty much every episode of Tales. And that's the crazy part is you and I were talking last night about that, is all of a sudden the movie just takes a hard right turn. At one point in the film, it just takes a hard right turn and becomes serious.
Yeah,
and filled with Jesus' blood. Like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's not unwelcome. Like it.
Oh no, I appreciated it, frankly.
Yeah, it makes like everything sort of surrounding it like all the worse. Like, and I think that might have been my reaction back then, and continues to be my opinion of the film today. When you have a concept like that, the concept ultimately in the film is that, William Sadler's character, his name is Breaker, he is carrying this key to heaven. The key itself is not a key at all. It's kind of like an enclosed chalice that holds the blood of Christ. A vial, yeah. And this demon is out to get it. And, we get a flashback to Golgotha, like the crosses, and a person taking the blood of Christ and putting it into this key so that the demons can't get their hands on it. Like, to me, I've said it before, it's really daring to do that. Like, that's something that, just a couple years prior to that would have gotten so much protest that the movie wouldn't have been shown in theaters, So I completely applaud them for that. And it does speak to the seriousness that it had within it, and then it does feel like, look, there are 3 credited screenwriters on this. Like there are 2 guys who wrote the script initially, and then kind of a 3rd guy who reworked it. I guarantee you that it went through a few of the writers of the television series' hands to make it more in what they consider to be Tales from the Crypt. And by that I mean they dumbed some areas down and put in stupid comedy bits.
And the stupid comedy bits are just that. They're really stupid.
Real dumb.
Yeah.
Real dumb.
Really, really dumb.
And it's unfortunate. There's a good movie lurking in here.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
I mean, look, this movie is written by 2/3 of the writing duo that wrote Kung Fu Panda.
Oh, and Bulletproof Monk.
Yeah, boy.
Classics.
The cinematic classics Kung Fu Panda and Bulletproof Monk. It doesn't have a very good wrangle on the mixing of horror and comedy.
No,
At all.
Yeah, that's a very hard line to walk. Like, there's only been a few actually successful horror comedies.
And I'm not even sure I would go on the record and say that From Dusk Till Dawn does it very well either.
No, that, as you said, Dusk Till Dawn is a much more enjoyable film, but it does have the same problems with this one. Like, I don't know that movie hangs together.
What are you talking about, From Dusk Till Dawn?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. It feels like 3 different movies.
It does, which the part of me likes that we get one movie and then we take a sharp left and it becomes a vampire flick. Like, that was a weird shift for the audience to take. Not that we went into it blind to the idea that it was going to be a vampire movie, but once we get into the Mayan temple and these vampires, like it's not great. Like, they do a lot of the same sort of mistakes that this film did, relying on stupid jokes like we're gonna enjoy that somehow more, as opposed to playing it deadly serious. I'm on record on this podcast as saying, like, to me, comedy always works best when you play it straight and don't telegraph a joke. And I think this and that other movie, by this I mean Demon Knight, and From Dusk Till Dawn, both suffer from that. I read the script last night for Demon Knight, and it's pretty exact. Like, what we got on screen was what was on the page, except I read a draft that I'm assuming got written a little bit prior to shooting, so those comedy elements aren't there, which is a bonus. But it was also a draft that was written to if they had gone a much lower budget, which sometimes happens with screenplays. So in the case of the script I read, the collector character played by Billy Zane in this film is actually a Bible salesman, or at least pretending to be a Bible salesman. And when the demons show up, they're not demons at all. What happens is he gets kicked out of the rooming house and puts out the call, and like 100 yuppies show up, like other Bible salesmen, quote unquote, and they're all different types of young urban professionals who are attacking the place, which I don't think would have worked necessarily visually, but it was at least an interesting concept.
I think it would have been. I think it might actually have been better than what we got, which was generic, hard to discern demon design. The demon design in this movie is not good. They look like big mush, like big brown, like just globs. They're not very clearly defined. It's just
they're
bad.
Very wet.
Oh yeah,
and very wet and very stringy. Like the thing is, I mean, you're not going to cast a couple dozen Billy Zanes for the other demons, but you could have tried, and it would have been interesting. It's my understanding that the script that I read was commissioned by the Tales from the Crypt people. Like, they brought in another writer to bring the budget down and not have to do so much prosthetic work. And then at the last moment got skittish at the idea that people are going to not embrace just a bunch of humans attacking the place, but could have been interesting, honestly.
Well, that's my point. It could have been interesting, and this is not interesting. And the problem with this being so kind of lackluster, straightforward, not much of anything, is I would have rather had it be an interesting failure than a middle-of-the-road attempt at comedy horror.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think this movie is bad. I just don't think that this movie is really much of anything.
I think that had they gone in any direction with the Tales from the Crypt movie, they were going to make exactly the same amount of money that they received with this one. Like, the idea that they're going to do comedy and that they're going to do actual demons running around doesn't sell the film in any way. Like, I can't remember the advertising for the film at the time necessarily, but it's not like I wanted to go see it because I saw some awesome supernatural effect or I saw some joke in the trailer that made me want to go see it. It's that I was a fan of Tales from the Crypt and I trusted them to make a good movie.
Well, and that's the whole thing, right? I mean, I don't understand who was going to see this in the theaters other than fans of the show.
Right, and
that's the thing. We were talking about that last night, is the time of TV shows getting movies has seemingly passed, and that's okay. Obviously, they don't need them anymore. I mean, not in a theatrical sense. I mean, TV shows still get movies, and some TV shows are so good that they're pretty much just a movie anyways. But the time of a big TV show movie coming out in theaters is gone.
That's probably for the best.
I mean, look at something like The X-Files, I want to believe. I mean, as much as I love that show, the movie is essentially completely the movie is essentially gobbledygook if you've never watched the show.
That's true. It's
would not
it's 100% mythology, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, you would not enjoy the movie if you have never seen a single episode of the show. I 100% believe that.
And the funny thing about that is, like, there are standalone episodes of The X-Files that, to me, felt they could have spun it out to a 2-hour feature and would have been accessible to everybody.
Exactly.
Instead, they he ended up focusing on why he sort of initially wrote the show, which is the sort of alien conspiracy here on Earth.
Well, and then they made a second movie, and it was a standalone, and everyone wanted a mythology movie. So,
right, but that's
different circumstances, because the mythology stuff was essentially unresolved at the time.
Right. So, that's like people who went to see Fire Walk with Me after Twin Peaks had folded. Like, we were looking to get resolution for the end of the series, and he ended up giving us a prequel.
Right.
So it's kind of understandable where that disconnect would be with the fans and why they were so, not necessarily enraged, but, not happy.
Well, and then you have something like this, which is a standalone, because that's the show, is just standalone. There's no underlying mythology to the show other than the Crypt Keeper. And
right, and that's the beauty of this.
Yeah, they had like the easiest job. Yeah, they had the easiest job of anyone writing a TV movie. You're not beholden to anything other than what kind of the tone needs to be.
And unfortunately, as we've discussed for 4 seasons now, what they chose was the sort of the lazier aspects of Tales from the Crypt. The parts that we as fans did not respond to at the time, and now even more harshly judge the show upon, which is stupid comedies, like lowbrow humor and gore for gore's sake, as opposed to like really twisting our heads. Like, honestly, they could have done a fucking love triangle movie, and as long as it was decent, I would have been on board. They looked at the script and said, yeah, this is pretty close to Tales from the Crypt. And it is, in concept. I just don't think, ultimately, the script as filmed gives us what we need.
It just doesn't know what it wants to be, because it has these like bursts of comedy that aren't funny, and then it has these bursts of horror that aren't, not scary, but aren't really much of anything, i.e. the scene where the collector punches his hand through the cop's head, and it's supposed to be like a horrific, hilarious sight gag, and it's not horrific or funny.
Yeah, like it seems
it's
like
not. You don't just miss the point. You miss the boat. You miss the boat not just once. You miss the boat twice. You fail as a comedy and you fail as a horror movie.
Right, and because if it's not conceived from the get-go as walking the line between horror and comedy, you're not going to get that. Like, it takes a singular vision in order to pull that off. A lot of horror movies, to me, always feel like action films. It's just that instead of, a mindless group of soldiers besieging our hero, we have, demons or zombies or whatever. And that's definitely the case here, where there are no scares like genuine scares woven into the film, or the sense of dread that to me is what qualifies it as a horror movie. Like a horror movie ought to disturb you in a way, and it can be done. I mean, this is effectively a bottle movie or a bottle story. You take a bunch of characters, trap them in one location, and watch what shakes out. There are excellent versions of that kind of horror. John Carpenter's The Thing is a really good example. George Romero's Night of the Living Dead is a great example. Something like Ice, which was from the X-Files television, 1 hour of television, also accomplished that. And it seems in every bottle episode or bottle story conceit, what makes them good is that there is that sense of dread, that inescapable quality to it, that you're whiling down the moments until you're finally going to be taken or murdered or whatever. Once you introduce comedy into one of those situations, you completely undercut what is possible for a horror scenario, ultimately.
And the real sad thing is, look, horror comedy, yes, it is hard, but it's not impossible.
No, not at all. It's been done, and done very well. American Werewolf in London,
Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah, are frightening to me, and scary, and disturbing. If you don't have disturbing, you don't really have a horror movie, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and that's the thing, is there's nothing in this movie this movie isn't, like you said, this movie's not scary. So, yeah, and it's hard to get invested in the characters as it is when they're all written so flat and one note and predictable. And then you don't have any interesting character design. And the only performances are the villain and the main character are the only ones of value, and not enough time is spent with either one because you're focusing on the side characters who essentially only one is going to survive, which is another problem with this movie that From Dusk Till Dawn doesn't have, because From Dusk Till Dawn isn't trafficking in the apocalypse, it's trafficking in a singular small event. So you can kill off all the characters. And From Dusk Till Dawn they don't, obviously, but in this movie they should have, but they couldn't because this is, the demons are going to come through the portal, and this has a lot of stuff going on that is, bigger than just this hotel in the middle of nowhere the demons are trying to break in.
Yeah, and then From Dusk Till Dawn, like, as much as a left turn as it takes, as far as genre goes, from a crime movie to a horror movie, at least we spend about 15 to 20 minutes with our lead characters. We get to know their relationships, we get to know what they're all about, and that's not only the Gecko brothers in that case, but the family in the camper that end up getting pulled into their world. So when the horror rears its head, we at least feel a little something for them, and we don't want them to die. In this case, the only two characters that are ultimately interesting are the Collector and Breaker. And, you watch the movie, and then we get involved with these other characters that we're not interested in any way, at least not even us, but it doesn't seem that the screenwriters or filmmakers are interested other than having a bunch of fodder who are going to get killed. So when they go, we don't give a shit.
And some of the characters were given all of maybe a minute and a half to give a shit about. Like Charles Fleischer's character, who's in this movie for so little time that you could honestly forget that he was even in the movie.
Yeah, it's like, okay, here's Thomas Hayden Church. He's a dickhead. Here's Cordelia. She is kind of a whore, honestly. Charles Fleischer's character is in love with Cordelia. Like, these are our character moments. I don't get to know, we don't get to know any of them. We don't get to know what they are living for, so why do we care what they're dying for? Like, doesn't make any sense at all. Are we judging this B movie too harshly? Maybe. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I come at a place where, look, there are films that are unredeemable and, like, they're not worth talking about. But when you have some elements in a film which clearly could have been elevated, and they just didn't care to go the extra mile, then it becomes ultra frustrating. Because you got a fucking movie here with William Sadler in the lead, man. Give him something better.
That's the biggest bummer, right? Is how often was William Sadler given the chance to be a lead in a movie, and this is what you give us?
Yeah, you know, like, there are a lot of character actors out there which it becomes evident when you see them in larger roles. Like, they're always better supporting the story or supporting the other characters. Like, we don't necessarily... A little goes a long way. William Sadler, to me, is a guy who is a fascinating character actor, always good no matter what the role, but he is magnetic enough that he could have been a leading man. And other than The Man Who Was Death, the episode of Tales from the Crypt, Season 1, the pilot, and this film, like, I can't point to something where he's the lead, and that's a shame because he's got it, man. He's got the chops. He could have done it. And it feels more of a waste when you consider that, and when you consider Billy Zane's performance, which is, you know, his character is comedic, but it's not it's not lazy or unserious. It's committed. You know, I said at the outset of this podcast, like, you know, I'm not a fan of that guy, but for here in this movie, he's really committed. He's really good. Like, those two characters are so interesting that it makes me want to see them in a different movie. I don't want to see the end game of these two guys. I want to see their battle through time. Like, that to me would have been a better movie.
I agree. I really do. I feel bad for Billy Zane because he's not phoning it in, and neither is William Sadler.
Yeah, and and it's not even like these other people are like phoning it in necessarily. It's just that they don't have the chops that these guys do. You know, look, man, Jada Pinkett Smith is ultimately the hero of this movie,
and she is not good.
I fucking hate her, man. Like, she's bad. She's bad in everything. Am I wrong? I just don't get it. I get that she's a pretty girl, and she's cute, and she's got, like, a bit of spunk that people were looking for in the early 90s, but she can't deliver. Like, she's not magnetic in the way that William Sadler or Billy Zane is in this movie. She's not magnetic in the way Dick Miller is in this movie.
She seems to be just sleepwalking through the movie as well.
You know what? I disagree with you. I think she's really trying, but she doesn't have it. She can't give it.
I mean, I guess, sure.
I think this is as good as she's going to be, but her good is not great. It's not good. It's bad. She's a bad actress. Okay, there, I said it.
Well, and especially when she's across from Billy Zane and William Sadler.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's like a 10-pound weakling in the ring with Muhammad Ali. You know, it's just not.
Yeah.
It would be hard for a middling actor to just not outclass them, but like try and even hold their own with these guys. But putting her in there, no, not happening.
Yeah, she's really, and look, the real issue is obviously she's the main, like you said, she's the main character, so we have to spend more time with her than we should have to. Yeah, you know, and if I can, we're kind of bagging on this movie, but it's, you know, it's not, it isn't from a non-constructive place. You know, there's a portion of the movie where we could have gotten to know these characters better because each of the characters ends up being tempted by Billy Zane's character. Him and the demons are all on the outside, but he can still get in the minds of the humans in there to try and convince them to give him the key to defect to his side. And I think those moments in the movie are probably my favorite moments in the film, where he is trying to woo them to the dark side, as it were. And you know, like even the scenes with him and Jada Pinkett, like those scenes become elevated not because of her but because of him. And I don't know, man, like it's so frustrating to watch a movie like this and know that it could have been a really great movie, or at least a really decent movie. And it speaks to the flaws of Tales from the Crypt as a series in general, which is
nobody had a vision. It was all just, we know the elements that we like and we think the audience like, and we're going to play to those. And if that's what we have, if I look at a script and it has these things, then sure. If it works, great. If it doesn't, we don't care. We'll go on to the next thing. And in this case, that was not the case at all, because they thought they were going to do a trilogy of films. There was some zombie New Orleans thing that they were going to do. There was a whole other thing that they thought they were going to do. And this was supposed to be the capper on that. And then they realized that of the 3 scripts that they had, that this was the best one. So let's put it to the forefront and do it first. We've never seen the light of day of those other things. I will say, however, and we'll probably talk about it at some point, but of the theatrical films released under the Tales from the Crypt banner, this is the best one, right?
Oh, my God. I mean, no question.
The one we're going to get is pure garbage.
Well, so there are 3. There are 3 Tales from the Crypt movies.
I know they made a third one. I have not seen it. I don't even know what the title of it is.
Ritual. Tales from the Crypt presents Ritual. Came out in 2002.
Ooh, fuck.
But Bordello of Blood is worse than this by leaps and bounds.
I'm sure. I am sure. I've seen the movie.
So to say, I know you've seen it. It is bad.
And that's another thing where, like, that script, which when did that movie come out? Like 98, maybe? 97, 98, 99?
96.
96. Okay, there you go. That script was written in 1975 by Bob Gale and Bob Zemeckis.
Makes so much sense.
Yeah, well, no, it doesn't, because their original script is mean. It's a comedy, but in the darkest sense of the word. Like, if you go back and read any of those guys' scripts, we ended up getting a lot of fluff and a lot of sentimentality, but they were angry young writers, which is why I like their scripts a lot. But that's never seemed to make it to the screen, which is unfortunate. I think Used Cars is probably the only time where those guys displayed what they were actually all about, which was very, very cynical. And obviously we'll talk about Bordello of Blood when we get to it, but that movie feels like kind of an interesting premise that got a little bit rewritten by the people who were involved with Tales from the Crypt, but didn't have the chops of the luminaries that they were involved with. People who just, let's dumb this down again.
And plus, it has Dennis Miller as the lead.
Don't do that, ever. Don't cast him.
Dennis Miller is just, yep.
Yeah, man, like, putting aside what a right-wing dickhead he is, like...
somehow Demon Knight looks like Citizen Kane compared to Bordello of Blood.
It really does. And I'm more, in a way, interested in the Bordello of Blood story, but not the movie that they gave us.
Yeah, the movie that they gave us is just atrocious. And look, ultimately, at the end of the day, the thing that does kind of still crack me up is I find Demon Knight to be mildly charming still. There are things about it that I do like. It's not all bad.
Billy Zane and William Sadler. I mean...
Yeah, and the music. Yeah. And the overall look of the film.
Very slick.
This feels like a very good kind of companion piece. You could do a double feature of this and From Dusk Till Dawn. And it would be like kind of right in that 90s wheelhouse of horror comedy. But... unfortunately, this film also very much is a product of the systemic problems that have been plaguing Tales from the Crypt since about halfway through season 3.
Is that when it was? Is that the turning point?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think so too. It's funny because first-time filmmakers, it's kind of a stereotype, an old trope, but like. Horror is always going to sell. There is a built-in audience for it. So a lot of filmmakers who want to do other projects will dabble in horror just to get something made, to have a reel, something that played in theaters or video or whatever. It's rare you find a filmmaker who's actually interested in horror and who wants to twist your mind in a way. And it feels like, as much as all of the executive producers of Tales from the Crypt are interested in horror, they're really not. I mean, look at that list of filmmakers, and it's, Bob Zemeckis and Walter Hill and Joel Silver and just people who we don't know them from horror.
And the one time Zemeckis directed a horror movie is bad.
Okay, you're talking about What Lies Beneath, aren't you?
Yeah, it's 2.5 hours of horror-ish things.
Yeah, that's a good movie. You're wrong.
No. It's not a horror movie. You can think it's a good movie, but it's not a horror movie.
No, it's not a horror movie. He has
and
never...
And that's my point, is Zemeckis
he's never
is not a
horror.
No, none of them have. The closest Zemeckis ever got to horror was What Lies Beneath, and it's a love triangle. It's a love triangle.
It's a ghostly love triangle. It's not a scary movie. It's not a movie out to twist your mind in some way. All the best horror movies got to get under your skin and got to disturb you in a way. Horror movies for me are movies that, after you've seen them, when you close your eyes, they start creeping back in. The list is not long of movies that can do that, but the intent of the filmmakers going in was to do that. And there are filmmakers who, like a guy like William Friedkin, like Exorcist is the only sort of real horror thing he ever did. But he was able to transcend it in a way. But there are guys out there who fucking love scare shows, man, and want to fucking do it to you. It feels sometimes like, we just got the wrong roster of people at the wheel of Tales from the Crypt. If it had been people like George Romero and John Carpenter and Tobe Hooper or Joe Dante, like I think those guys would have, been a little bit more committed to it and would have looked at a script that wanted to go more comedy and said, no, don't do that. Like, there's a potent idea in here, and we need to bring that to the forefront.
They didn't. That's the
certainly
problem.
Not here. Not with Demon Knight.
No. And with Demon Knight, ultimately, what we have really is just a long episode of season 4 of the show, and a lot of those episodes of season 4 were not good.
No, we got an action movie dressed up in, demon costumes. There's nothing scary, nothing horrific. Although, I've already said this, but this idea that these characters are the MacGuffin in the piece is a vessel of carrying the blood of Christ is such a potent idea that it makes the failure of this movie all the more not insulting necessarily, but saddening or depressing in a way. Like they could have gone for it, man. They could have really had a hardcore movie, and instead they went for middle of the road. Because as I said earlier, no matter what they were going to throw out on the screen, what they were doing was saying Tales from the Crypt presents. So they were going to get that audience. But had they gone the extra mile and made it more hardcore, then they could have brought in even more audience. Like, word of mouth on a movie that is actually frightening is a very I keep saying potent, but that's it. You know what I mean? Like I don't think a movie like the Blair Witch Project came out. Now, your mileage may vary on that film, but there was a seriousness there that everyone responded to. And that's good word of mouth. I don't know.
No, I completely agree. And look, I mean, this film rested on the laurels of the Tales from the Crypt brand. And even the Crypt Keeper wraparounds aren't very good, primarily because of the CGI in the first wraparound is just so bad.
It's real bad. It's real bad, right?
It is so bad, it's shocking.
It's like this idea, the Muppet Show had been on the air for a while back in the late 70s, right? And then we got the Muppet movie. And they were like, let's do things we could not have possibly done on a soundstage in London somewhere. We're going to show you Kermit the Frog riding a bike. And because they decided they were going to do that, they went hardcore into it and figured out the way to do it. In this case, they're like, you know what? We're going to have the fucking Crypt Keeper get up and walk around. That's a good idea. We haven't really seen him do that in full frame. But, like, let's do it in the laziest way possible, where it just looks weird and uninteresting and off, right? Like, I like the idea of him out there directing the movie and then finally noticing that we were there, and he was like, oh, hey, by the way, let me tell you a story, because clearly these people are idiots. But the early CG is just bizarre. Nothing matches up. It all looks wonky and weird.
It really is a puppet head on a little person's body. CGI'd, copy-pasted on top. It is bad. Really, really bad.
And, I liked having John Larroquette there in the opening. I think most people have forgotten about John Larroquette. He was very big in the 1980s. He was on a show called Night Court, and he won, like, a handful of Emmys playing that particular role, and is no stranger to horror. This is a guy
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Absolutely. Like, if you go back, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is John Larroquette doing the narration at the beginning. So it was a bit heartening to see him in the opening scene. It was also heartening that it seemed like they were making fun of the elements of Tales from the Crypt that we don't like. It seemed like they were making another fucking love triangle, and here's a shambling zombie, and, like, all the laziness. Like, it seemed like it was a setup, like, here's the thing that we've been giving you. And here's a promise that what will come after is not anything like that. And then we ended up effectively getting that.
Got exactly what we deserved. Episode from the season 4 of the show, where the show has effectively begun to give us one good episode every 3 episodes.
Yeah, man. Like, what? Give me a time machine. I want to go back and run this show and make it fucking great, because it had all the potential. And this
let's just bring it back and have it produced by Jordan Peele.
No, let's not do that.
Let's not do that, for real.
That's a bad idea. Dude, you know what? Like, it's kind of off topic for a moment, but, like, who out there is the vanguard for horror these days? Who really is committed to it and is doing interesting work?
Ari Aster, obviously, bro. Ari Aster is doing it. Look at Midsummer. It's so creative and original.
Yeah, exactly. Or, like, who's the guy, Robert Eggers, who did The Witch and The Lighthouse? Like, these are our horror gods? Are you kidding? I feel blessed in the way that I grew up in the 1970s and the 1980s, where it seemed there was an entire generation who was interested in horror and was comfortable.
They wanted to be horror directors.
Yeah, like the movies that had fucked them up as kids, they wanted to inflict on a new generation. And they did it. And the people who came up, the people of my generation who were weaned on those films, it seems like they took all the wrong lessons away from it. It's funny. I might have said this in an earlier podcast, but during the 1980s, there was a preponderance of slasher movies, which you go back and watch them and they're charming in a way, but there was a problem that they weren't great. But there was a big backlash at the time from parents groups and everything, saying that we were desensitizing a generation to violence. We were making them enjoy it, and I remember rankling at the time, like I could separate real from fake real, but then the generation that came up ended up inventing a genre called torture porn, which was just all about that minutia of the violence, and still in a detached way. Like what they missed was that there was a giant story around the gore. And then they were only interested in the gore. And, like, whatever basic premise can get us to the gore is good enough. So, yeah, I don't know. This is... Oh, we're talking Demon Night. We're talking 1995. But, like, this is systemic. The problem with this movie is the problem with the horror genre in general, which is you effectively have a bunch of people who are not interested in horror giving us horror movies. And that's a shame. Like, there needs to be a John Ford of horror. John Ford, obviously the great champion of westerns back in the day, or any of the horror directors from the 70s and 80s, Dario Argento or John Carpenter or George Romero, guys who were like full sail into it. Like I weep for the state of horror these days.
I don't know. Midsummer's pretty good. Isn't it fun? Isn't it fun that that's where we're at now as a horror community, is having to be subjected to these haute horror, like haute cuisine, but haute horror, like highbrow horror.
Yeah, you know,
you can have both. Just because it's not highbrow doesn't mean it's not entertaining and worth your time.
Yeah, I can watch a movie about the basest, lowest common denominator idea of horror, as long as somebody's interested in giving me a serious take on it. But this idea that, you know, it's shot a little more statically and a little bit more oblique, and we don't explain everything, and that somehow elevates it, to me drives me crazy. It's like the works of Nicholas Winding Refn. It seems like he's just interested in not giving us plot, and then because we have to actually think and fill in our own version of it, like that's somehow elevating. But it's not elevating. It's just lazy. Like, there's ways to do complex ideas and not necessarily spoon-feed an audience, but give us something more and we'll go with you. And what we've been getting lately is not good at all. I can't remember the last horror movie that actually disturbed me and stayed with me.
Well, there haven't been many. Let's just go there and say that. Or you've got what I would consider to be close to Demon Knight, where you've got folks like Chris Rock getting involved in franchises just because I want to do horror now.
Yeah, people who look around that you know, Jordan Peele made a pretty good horror movie in Get Out. It's a pretty good movie. It's a pretty good movie, right? I mean, it's not great.
I like it a lot.
I like it too. And there's a situation where he knows that comedy is a flavor that you add to a horror movie. It's not necessarily a way of diffusing horror. It's a way to enhance it. It's a way to set you up in order for the scare to work even more. So yeah, people look at his success and think like, well, we can do that then, right? I mean, that's the wave. But he had actually something to say with that particular movie, because his follow-up, where he thought he had something to say, was garbage.
Yeah, Us is not good.
A waste of time.
I did not like it at all. I was thoroughly disappointed, and I think you and I are the minority of people that did not like it. So
yeah, it's not a good movie. It's
all.
Muddle-headed at best, and you know the thing about horror movies
collapses under the weight of its own mythology.
It really does, and that's the thing about horror. Like, when you set up this universe, you have to put rules into place, and then you have to very assiduously stick to those rules, or everything falls apart. Like, a movie that came out recently, that people lionized was It Follows. And that's a movie, to its credit, it takes its premise very seriously and doesn't try and wink at us during it. But it's one of these movies where you can figure out a solution very quickly. Like, if you have something that's following you and it's going to be walking in your direction at some point, you just go to another country. And then if it shows up there, you fly away. Or you set up some sort of Reddit sub-thread where people can take it on and not have to worry about it. So, so like the idea that of horror taking itself seriously and giving us rules that we need to abide by is very sacrosanct. So when you have a movie that just kind of goes, and kind of shrugs and doesn't stick to its own rules, you end up getting Demon Knight. Like, for instance, we have a birth scene in Demon Knight where Billy Zane slices his hand open, and from his blood, which he sprays in all directions, everywhere it puddles up, a demon pops out, right? So we end up getting maybe like a dozen or so demons. Like, why wouldn't he continue to make demons? Why wouldn't there be 1 million demons if he can do that? That's a problem for me. If he had opened a portal and 12 demons showed up, and like, this is what I have to work with, then okay. But the fact is, if he can make them, then that entire building should have been swarming with them. It should have looked like an anthill with them trying to break in from every direction. It seems like a quibble, but it speaks to the seriousness of the filmmakers, where they give us something and then don't consider the consequences of that.
Yeah, I agree. It's just God, it's just such a missed opportunity, dude. So much of this, I just look back and go, well, if they had just done this, and this different, it might have been really something special.
And, you know, like when you're making something, there's a bit of a myopic thing going on where you're a little too close to it, so you don't necessarily or can't really objectively judge your own work. But that's what a showrunner is for. That is what an executive producer is for. Somebody who can look at everything and go, we're going too hard in this direction. Fix this. Like, let's course correct here or there. Let's make this the best thing that we can get. This might be the most critical analysis of Demon Knight of all time.
Well, and I think it deserves it because, I mean, look, it is really well regarded in the Tales from the Crypt community and well received by the Tales from the Crypt community.
What are they thinking?
I mean, I don't think their opinion's not wrong. It is an opinion. I just think I do think people view this film a little too fondly with... I think people have a little bit of blinders on when it comes to this movie.
I think they probably saw this film at a certain time in their lives, a non-critical necessarily time in their lives, where it spoke to them in some way. And I appreciate that. I do that all the time. There's a ton of movies that I could show to you and say, like, this is a great movie, and you would not respond to it because you weren't in the same circumstances as I was when I saw it and responded to it. And ultimately, that's a great thing about art. It is what it is. You respond to it if you respond to it. But if you're looking at the overall history of horror, this is not really a horror movie. This is an action movie, dressed up in burial cerements. It's not... There's nothing inherently scary in the film at all. There's not one scare in the movie. If you can't do that, you've got a problem. This is, you and I were sort of talking off the air last night about American Horror Story. We're talking about a show that's been on for like 10 seasons and doesn't have one scare in it. Whereas you had a series like Penny Dreadful where almost every episode had, if not necessarily a jump scare, something that I took away as disturbing. Like, it's all about intent. Like, what are people thinking when they're making these movies?
They're not. That's what it feels like. It feels like, we said, just good enough.
Yeah, stop doing that.
Put in a little bit more effort. Want more from your content creators, from the people who make things. We need to hold them to a higher standard, especially if we're giving them our money.
Yeah, and I think that's part and parcel to it. We used to be able to vote with our money. So, like, I went and saw this movie in a theater. I paid to see it, right? And then if it came out on DVD, I also paid to see it. But now everything is kind of streaming and, in most people's minds, free. They haven't put any effort into it. So they don't feel more critical, in a way. Like, they didn't have to get in their car and drive to a movie theater and then wait in line and pay to see it. And they didn't have to go to a store waiting for it to come out and pay to have the physical copy. It's just something that appears. So they're not going to judge it as harshly, in a way. I don't know. Is that a problem with capitalism?
I think that's just the reality of this movie. I think that's really what it is. And of Tales from the Crypt. I mean, it was a cultural phenomenon, dude. There's a pinball machine, there's movies, there's a cartoon, there's a game show. It was part of the cultural kind of fabric of the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, I mean, and nobody to this day, if you say the Crypt Keeper, they know who you're talking about. We're talking about John Kassir and that fucking puppet. So it's there. It's ready to be mined for something better than we've gotten. This was not it. Although there are charms to this movie, I'm not going to sort of dismiss it out of hand. I don't think it's a total waste of anyone's time. I just think they needed to have aimed higher.
Much, much higher. I'm not going to say skip it. I'm going to say this is a light watch. And frankly, if you've never seen it, you should watch it.
Yeah, there are some charms to this film. Undeniable. That's the thing. Like, I didn't like it when it came out. I've honestly at least seen this movie like 4 times in my life, probably. So there are little gems to be had in it. At the very least, what we have here is a film where William Sadler is the lead character. That's awesome. For my money, this is Billy Zane's best performance. He really understood what was needed for the film and delivers. You should listen to your good friend Billy Zane. He's a cool dude. I'm not going to say skip it either. This is a very, very soft watch. It is a watch nonetheless.
Yeah, it's definitely the best of the Tales from the Crypt movies. The ones that have to do with the show, not the ones that we've watched.
Which, yeah, I mean, look, ultimately, if there's a Tales from the Crypt movie that I'm going to recommend to anyone, it's from 1973. But as far as an original project goes, this is closer to what the comic was than what comes after. I can't say it's a terrible movie or a bad movie necessarily. It's just not that great a movie.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it a handful of times. I don't think it's bad. I just think it's just not enough.
Could have been better.
Exactly.
In some ways, that's more frustrating than an outright bad movie. But, we got what we got.
So with that in mind, on the next episode of Chronicles from the Crypt, we're going to be venturing into Season 5 of the show. Which, Season 5 has some goodies. Season 5 has some good episodes. I know it at Forever Ambergris, dude. Forever Ambergris. That is a phenomenal episode. It is one of my favorite episodes of the show. It's so gross.
There you go. Are we getting Tim Curry this season? Is this
Tim Curry? Tim Curry is in the first episode of this season. Tim Curry doing his best Eddie Murphy.
I am, I gotta say, as hardcore a fan of the original comics and the TV series up to a point, like this was the point. I think Season 5 is when I sort of watched it sporadically, so I'm curious to rewatch it now because I guarantee you there's a bunch of episodes that I have never seen in my life. So I'm kind of excited, but that is tempered with everything that came before.
And this is also the season where we finally have John Kassir in front of the camera.
Unfortunately.
Wow.
Oh, it's just a bad episode. He's great. I love John Kassir.
The episode is not good.
No. Written by my friend Scott Nimmerfro.
So until then, where can people find you, Father Malone?
Go check out my YouTube channel, Ot5 Films, and my show You've Never Seen about movies that you might not have seen, or if you have seen them, maybe this is a fresh perspective for you. You can also hear me over on the Dreams for Sale Twilight Zone 1985 podcast, where we talk about the Twilight Zone reboot from 85, the only decent reboot of Twilight Zone to date. And on occasion, you can hear me over on the Culture Cast, giving my opinion on movies and stuff.
It's true, movies and stuff.
Stuff, mainly a lot of stuff.
And as for myself, you can find me on the Culture Cast. You can also find me on the One Season Show and The Life and Times of Captain Barney Miller. Also Dreams for Sale. Those are all things you can listen to that I am either on or a part of in some substantial form. Big thanks as always to John Kassir. Chronicles FTC on Twitter is where you can find us. ChroniclesFTC.com as well as where you can find us on the internet. And we'll catch you on the next episode.